Thank you. We're going to talk about love in this segment. But before I tell you about love, I would like to tell you that one of my own community has a new hearing aid. He just loves. He just loves it. Oh, I love it. He said, it puts me back in communion with the human race again. I can take part in every conversation. He said, it's marvelous. He said, you hear everything. You hear the drop of a pin. And someone asked him, what kind is it? And he said, 130. You know, I was giving a sermon once at a wedding, and I was saying that you got to make love the rule of your life. So that at the crossroads of every decision, all you ask is, what is the loving thing to do? And you do it. And Jesus says, if you want to follow me, you got to make your life an act of love. And he says, love your friends? Oh, come on, the heathens do this. I say, you have to love your enemies. And so we got to ask ourselves, don't we, what does love mean? What is this love you're supposed to have for enemies? And young people, the people that I teach, think love is always a feeling. It's a feeling. My love is gone out when the feeling goes away. You heard about the lady whose husband died, and she engraved on his tombstone, my light has gone out. And then later on, she got into another love relationship, and she asked her pastor, what should I do? And he said, oh, just engrave underneath it, but I have struck another match. But love is not a feeling. We all know that feelings come and feelings go, and sometimes you have negative feelings, even for people you know you love. What is love? What does love mean then? And I'm convinced that love is a decision. You got to decide you're going to be a loving person. You can't teach it to somebody. You can tell them what love is, but they've got to decide, I'm going to be a loving person. And then you're committed to whatever is loving. I'm committed to do whatever I think is best for you. I'm committed to do whatever is best for myself. I'm committed to do whatever is best for God, because I got to love me, and I've got to love you, and I've got to love God. But I'm committed to it. So that love becomes an active thing in our lives. It's not just something that we feel, it's something that we do. And sometimes we do it with very little or even negative feelings. But love is that way. So that what love is a decision and a commitment. And there's a threefold object of love. I've got to love me, and I've got to love you, and I've got to love God. And that means decisions. We grow up by making decisions. We're beings that are supposed to grow up by making decisions, supposed to evaluate situations. And I've got to decide if I'm going to love myself, I've got to love you, I've got to love God. Who predominates? What predominates in a given situation? If I'm very tired and I'm going to bed and you say you want to talk, I say, what do you want to talk about? And if you say, well, I'm thinking of changing my major from sociology to psychology, oh, see me in my office, will you, Monday afternoon? But if you say my life is on the line, I'm suicidal, oh, then your needs now predominate. So I've got to decide that. I've got to decide whose needs predominate. And where does the will of God enter into all this? Does God have a will other than being loving? See, my theory is that God does not have a will for every little thing that we do. But he says, make your life an act of love. And if I need you for something, I want to use you for a specific purpose, I will nudge you with my grace. You'll know if you're open to that. But that love is a decision and a commitment. And we have to make it to one another, we have to make it to ourselves, and we have to make the decision about whose needs predominate in this situation. The other thing about love, besides having a threefold object, is that sometimes it's tough and sometimes it's tender. Sometimes it's silent, sometimes it's loquacious, and I've got to decide what is the loving thing to do. You know, there was a Jesuit priest. He happens to be dead now, so I presume he's watching us from heaven, who said that he was an alcoholic for 20 years in a given university, a Jesuit university. And he said, and no one loved me enough to confront me. He said, the other priests were very kind. They took over my classes when I was too drunk or too hungover to teach. but no one confronted me. And that's what tough love is. Tough love is confrontive. And he said, finally someone stood at the other side of my desk and said, Eddie, you're a drunk. And I don't want a box seat at your martyrdom. And so you've got to do something about it, or you blow the whistle, or I will blow the whistle. Now, you've got your choice. He said it was then that I went into detoxification and joined AA. But he said, thank God, someone loved me with a tough enough love to confront me. And sometimes the loving thing to do, that's what love asks, what is the loving thing to do? Sometimes love is confrontive. Sometimes love stands right in front of a person and says, you are a drunk. Sometimes love says, you are not going to roll over me. I'm sorry, you're abusing me now, and I just can't take that. It wouldn't be the loving thing either for me or for you to continue to take that. So what love is a difficult thing. It implies a lot of decisions that you and I have to make, but it's a decision and a commitment that we have to make if we're going to be happy people. Otherwise we let our lives be ruled by resentment, by hatred, and that's a miserable way to live. And Jesus says at the Last Supper, if you make your life an act of love, you'll be a very happy person. It's just a question of what does love ask of me? What would love ask? What would love include and exclude? Now here's the problem. Love means that I've got to love my enemies too. I've got to love people I don't like. I've got to love people that bother me. And maybe I'll get into that and see that the reason comes from something in me. But at least for now, I've got to admit this. This person bothers me, and I have to love this person. So what do? I try to do what I think is best for that person. But I've got to get out of myself and get into that person and ask, what is it you need? What is it like to be you? And then I want to do that. I want to do that for you. What do you need? You need to be tough? I can be tough. You need to be tender? I can be tender. You need to be affectionate? I can be affectionate. You need to be silent? I can sit and grieve with you. What do you need? Now, for that, and we've got to get out of ourselves. We've got to get into the other person. They say that you've got to take off your own moccasins and walk in the shoes of another for 1 mile before you understand. And I think that before I make the judgment of what you need, I've got to ask myself, what is it like to be you? You all know the name Marilyn Monroe, the movie star. Everybody in Hollywood hated Marilyn Monroe because she was the prima donna who always came late to every filming, and they had to keep the extras and electricians and everybody else on pay until the prima donna arrived. What they didn't know was that she was terrified of a camera and was home vomiting. Tony Curtis once said, you think it's fun kissing Marilyn Monroe? Did you ever kiss someone who's just vomited? That's how much fun it is. Well, she was raped at age 8. She was living in a foster home. Her father was an itinerant baker named Mortensen who just fathered her and left. And her mother was an insane person who was in mental institutions and out of them. And Marilyn, Norma Jean Baker, was shunted from foster home to foster home, where she was raped at age 8. And a man gave her a nickel and said, here, honey, so you won't tell anyone what I just did to you. And when she told her foster mother, the foster mother whipped her and said, don't you ever say anything like that about our boarders here. They pay rent, and that's more than you do. And so when she was 16, she attempted marriage. She married Joe DiMaggio, the baseball player. She married Arthur Miller, the playwright. But when she got to Hollywood, she said, would you give me some serious roles? Oh, come on, honey. You're built to be a sex symbol. And she never really understood that. She said, aren't simple things you hit together? And they said, oh, my God. It's all right, but we will do the hype, we will do the advertisement, we'll do the promotion, but you are a sex symbol. And she wanted to be taken seriously. She wanted someone to say, I hear you as a person. No one ever did. And when she died at 35 on a Saturday night. And she called, reputedly she called, a male movie star and told him she had taken an overdose of sleeping pills. And he said, yeah, I don't give a damn. I'm sorry, that's your problem. That's not my problem. And she threw the phone on the floor. And when her maid found her corpse and the phone on the floor the next morning, she found her dead. And Claire Booth Luce, who was the wife of Henry Luce, who started Time and Life magazine, Claire Booth Luce wrote an article about her and said Marilyn Monroe was the goddess of love, but she never found any love. She never found love because no one ever listened to her. And she said, Claire Booth Luce said that the phone off the hook on the floor was the symbol of her life. All her life she wanted someone at the other end who would be sympathetic, who would listen, who would care about her, and no one ever did. And so she just threw the phone on the floor. And I keep thinking about the people in your life and in mine, because Claire Booth Luce said that. She said it was the symbol of her life, but it's also the symbol of many other lives. The phone off the hook. And no one was there to listen. When they asked these runaway kids, why did you run away? So no one ever listened. No one ever listened to me. What love does is love asks, what is it like to be you? When Marilyn Monroe died, all Hollywood and the whole world lined up to do homage to the poor person. Who killed Marilyn, we asked. Well, we all did in a way. Everyone who refused to love her. Our lives are shaped by those who love us and by those who refuse to love us. And what love does is love gets out of itself. Love listens. Love cares. Love walks in your moccasins for 1 mile. Now, I have a friend, a Jewish friend, at the University of Chicago who believes that the body is the biological computer of everything that goes on in us. He says it's going to show up in your body somehow, in the form of tension or whatever. And I had a girl in class who was a pill. I thought she was a pill. And she used to ask, why are you teaching this? It's so elemental. And I finally got her out of my class. She was graduated or something. But she still embittered me every time I thought about her. And so I said to my friend, who believes that the body is the biological computer of everything that goes on in us, I said, I had this person in class last semester, and honest to goodness, there's a drop of vinegar in my barrel of sweetness. I just think about her, I want to wring her neck. And he said, okay, he said, now listen, what I want you to do is imagine yourself at a door. And so I relaxed and imagined myself at a door. He said, now empty your brain of everything else you have to do. Unpack your brain. So I did. I unpacked my brain. He said, now take the girl into the room with you and relive everything. And I started to get tense, and I could feel my fists doubling up. And he said, all right, now I want you to tell me, what is your body saying to you? And I thought for a moment, I said, I'm experiencing the emotion, not of anger, but of guilt. Oh, he said, good, good. And now he claims that when you get to the right reason for your guilt, your shoulders sag and a sigh of breath escapes. And he said, you got it. You got it. I saw your shoulders sag. I heard the sigh of breath. He said, you got it, haven't you? And I said, I think I do. He said, can you share it with a Jew? And I said, oh, yes. I said, I never loved her. You know what I thought? I always thought about how do I get this person without blowing my professorial cool? How do I get this person out of my class? What do I do? How do I deal with this situation? Instead of, where is she hurting? She must be hurting somewhere. What can I do? What can I do to love her? And as I say, most people don't even believe in this. They don't believe that you can love someone you don't like. But you have to ask yourself, what does she need? What should I do? And so I realized that I never loved her. And so I said to my friend, my Jewish friend, you know what I think the reason is? I abdicated my commitment to love to her. I never loved her. I thought about how I could get rid of her. I thought, ooh, get her out of my life. But I never really cared that much to ask, where is she hurting? So I had another girl in class a couple of years later. And she had some kind of a disease of the bones, which was too complicated to remember. But she, too, became very petulant. And she raised her hand up in my face one day, and I said, I see your hand, I'll be right back. And I finished my idea. When I came back, she asked her question, and I didn't understand it. And I said, can you put that in other words? And she did, and I didn't understand the other words. So I said, can anyone else help? I'm having mental constipation up here. And no one volunteered to help. So I had no idea what she was asking. So I said, maybe we can discuss it after class. And she said, all right. And so after class, she said, When I ask a question, when I raise my hand, I want my question answered immediately. And I said, yes, I understand. And she said, it doesn't have the same relevance later. And I said, I understand all that, but I have a problem too. When I'm putting an idea together and someone interrupts with a question, I can't put the idea back together again. And she says, but I am paying tuition at this school, and that makes you my employee. You are being paid to teach me. So I thought to myself, you know why you're paying what you are and not more? Because we Jesuits contribute our salary back to the university. I told her that. So I said, so in a way, honey, I'm putting you through school. At which point I realized I'm not loving her at all. So I called time. I signaled time. I said, I'm not loving you. I'm not loving you. And I've learned this, that when you are loving, you are happy. You are never nervous. Really, you aren't? When your mind is out there. So I said, I'm not loving you. I said what I was doing was debating you. I was trying to be smarter than you. I'm really sorry. And I put my arms around her, and she patted me in the back, said, thanks, Pops, and walked out of the classroom. But I think, you know what I have done, and I would suggest you do it, is I have written, as a matter of fact, it's in this book, Happiness is an Inside Job, of what love does and what love doesn't. Love accepts you wherever you are. Love cares about you. Love only asks, what do you need me to be? Need me to be tough, need me to be tender. And what love doesn't shout at you, love doesn't bully you, love doesn't manipulate you, and so forth. I would suggest that you make such a list of what love does and what love doesn't, and use that for an examination of conscience. Because if you do love, if you make love the rule of your life, trust me and trust the Lord, by the way, you will be a happy person. Here's Loretta to help you understand, to process these ideas, to make them your own. Loretta?
Yes, to process these ideas. Okay, that's our work here, isn't it? I think of all of us in this room, I don't know everybody real well, but I think all of us here are loving persons, and we're wanting to be loving persons, among other things in life, as we grow through life. But it doesn't always work out that way. I mean, we even say that maybe in the morning, and by noontime it's already gone bad. So what is it that gets in the way? And John's talked about this in terms of our obstacles to love. And he's also referred to it in terms of the fact that it's because I'm focusing in on myself for some reason. Maybe I'm in pain or feeling insecure, or the pain of shyness or guilt or something. But the focus is going inward, and when it's going inward, I can't look outward and love others. So what I'd like to do is make some suggestions about the ways in which all of us human beings tend to start out being loving, and then somehow it all comes backwards here, and the obstacle to love is built. And in the process, maybe you can identify with one or another, but what would even be more interesting, I think, is after I offer some possibilities, is if you had some that you could think about and share with the rest of us in terms of ways in which things, concepts, projects, whatever, get in the way and keep you from loving when you really are wanting to be loving. For example, do you get so involved in trying to complete everything and fix everything and make everything go right and perfect in a certain day or in a certain time that you completely forget the people involved in your life? You know, you're so busy getting that thing done just perfect. You say, get out of the way. And that happened to be the person that you were loving and wanting to love. In fact, maybe it was the person you were doing this thing for. Maybe that happens to you, maybe that doesn't. How about, are you trying very hard to be a caring, loving, caretaking person that you really are busy watching what kind of a lover you are? Let me give you an example. It would be like, I really want to be a loving person, and I really want to be attentive to your needs and take care of your needs. So I say, what do you need? And you say, well, nothing, I'm fine. I say, oh, are you sure you don't need anything? I'd love to be of help to you. And the focus starts to be, you better need something, because I got to take care of your needs so I can feel good about you. And I've suddenly stopped loving you and started worrying about whether you're loving me. That might be an obstacle that either you've experienced or it's happened in your life. Or how about just the average, how am I doing? You know, you're so busy wondering, you know, what do I look like and how am I doing, and are you paying attention to me? And, you know, am I doing well? That I forget that you need to know that you're doing well. and that whatever you're about is coming across well, and that the job you're involved in is really worthwhile. And you need my affirmation, and I'm so busy trying to reel yours in that I've completely forgotten that. Maybe that's yours, maybe something else. Is it possible that you're, on the other hand, so concerned that you're not going to be accepted? You're so busy wondering if that person's going to reject you or that person's going to reject you that you're real focused in on, do I look right, do I sound right, am I acting right, that you no longer even see those other people as human beings who need your love. They're just people who are going to give you attention because you're so worried about your own image, your own self, your own person being an acceptable person. I think we all have these feelings one day or another. Do you possibly do this? You really care a lot about people, but what you tend to do is you hear about a real sad story in someone's life, and even maybe that person is telling you that story in the moment, and you're sitting there thinking about the story and thinking about what could be done about it, and the person starts to fade, and you start to have this little relationship in your head. You start thinking about the person instead of really relating to the person. Sometimes we do that, analyze somebody instead of really hug them or something. Or maybe you're the kind of person who loves life and is very good at enjoying life, but you can only do the enjoying part. So that if I come to you and I'm really sad or I'm really having a bad day or a hard time, you say, hey, nothing to it, just put a smile on your face and carry on. And I can't bring my tears to you because, tears are not allowed. Or maybe you're that person who always has to keep the smile. I don't know. The smiles are wonderful, but sometimes they're obstacles to growth. And sometimes, obstacles to love, but sometimes I think there are people who are very loving, and what they see and hear and express and understand love to be is making everyone feel good, happy, calm, peaceful. Is everything okay? Is everything okay? And they kind of go around and say, is everything okay with you? And if not, they want to make it okay. But what happens then if I'm in that role is I lose track of the fact that I'm insisting you be okay. Therefore, you can't be not okay. Don't bring the not okayness to me. So I've set up an obstacle to loving you when you're not okay. When you're feeling crummy and lousy and you want to fight and be angry, I'm saying, well, no. I can only deal with you when you're feeling okay. That becomes an obstacle to growth, although I start out thinking that's a very loving thing to do. These are a whole bunch of examples I'm giving you, but I'm wondering if, as I'm giving them, and as you listen to John talk about love and our lives being acts of love, and then how we present these obstacles to love, have you gotten in touch in any way with places in your life that you actually have built obstacles to growth, or you know that that's there? We're not here to condemn ourselves. Remember, we're here just to accept ourselves as we are. So if you can think of an example and share it with the rest of us, that would be great. Yes.
Along those same lines of wanting everything to be okay all the time, not being able to deal with anger well, someone getting very angry, the need to calm everything down and back off and withdraw until things are calmed down and we can deal with everything calmly again, seems to really push people away to an arm's length and can be a real negative loving kind of influence. Something I keep working with.
Diane, is it Diane?
Yes.
That's a great example, because even as you were saying that, you're saying just move away until the anger part is gone, and you could just literally feel you building that obstacle there. And thank you for being so open about that. It sounds very loving, and it's an attempt to love, and then the point of anger gets to be too difficult a place for you to stay. So to love someone while they are right in the process of being angry is a real difficult place for you. Good, thanks for sharing that. Yes.
Sometimes in relationships, you get into who's right and who's wrong. And we get so involved in who's right. And I like to remember that it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It only matters that we love each other. That has helped a lot in conflicts in relationships, especially like with my husband. You get into this broken record. He says this, I say that, and it goes back and forth. You got to break that record, and that's a good way to break it.
Okay. Doesn't matter who's right or wrong, just matters that we love each other. Okay. So you have to stop needing to be the winner of the arguments.
Apropos of what that lady just said about doesn't matter who is right and wrong, I think that leads to unresolved conflict.
All right, let's clarify.
The situation, it has not been resolved.
Yes.
Just accepted it, I think.
Okay, that's a good point, and let's see if we can put these 2 points together. You're saying, when I say it doesn't matter who's right or wrong, just so long as we love each other, it's sort of like sealing over a conflict and not resolving it. And I don't think you meant that, right? I think both of them have a piece of the truth, if we can pull it together, is that you don't need to or want to say what we're talking about or that we're dealing with each other doesn't matter. We need to resolve this somehow, but we need to take a different way of going about it. We need to start by saying, number 1 premise, we love each other. Number 2 premise, we have a disagreement. And now let's work at that stage. Is that the kind of process you use?
It really doesn't matter. Sometimes the thing that we're arguing about is very unimportant. It's not really earth-shattering. It's like, did I do such and such on Monday? And he's saying, no, you did it on Tuesday. That doesn't matter. So the way to break the argument or the tension is to say, wait a minute, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It only matters we love one another. And that kind of puts things in perspective, and it's worked for us.
Okay. And then when you do have to deal with an issue, even though there's a disagreement, you have to stay with it until it gets resolved. Okay. Do we have some other comments of obstacles to love? Margie?
In accepting the decision to love, in accepting the ability to listen and understand the other person. If you have a disagreement, it seems to me that you can stop and think, well, they're coming from a different perspective than I am. And they have a right to their feelings just as I have a right to my feelings. So we can accept each other as being different, but still love each other. Is that possible?
I think that's possible, and I think that's a wonderful way to summarize that whole concept. Yes?
I think one of my best obstacles to loving is to solve problems. And I think Father John referred to it a little bit in his professorial role, but it is when someone comes for love, I solve the problem instead of loving them. Mm-hmm. And so that sense of always being able to solve any problem, which we're all sort of geared up with as an appropriate thing to do, at least many of us are, can be a real obstacle to just being present to someone and loving them.
Yes, good. Thank you very much. I come to you with my feelings and you solve me. Yes, thank you. That's really good. Fix it. Is there one other comment, an obstacle to growth that you recognize? Yes.
Sometimes in a relationship we'll bring a lot of baggage with us,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll kind of prejudge where the other person is, so we won't even listen, and that is a real detriment to a relationship.
Great, Marianne, that's a good suggestion, that our preconceptions of who you are, what you're going to say, right away I set up an obstacle. I'm not listening and loving. Good, thank you very much. In the next session, John will talk, and then of course we'll get a chance to work with his ideas. We'll talk about the concept of stretching outside what we call our comfort zones. Thank you very much.